And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Go ahead and say it, Ed. Go Tigers!
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
You like that? You like that?
F it. Jamar's down there somewhere.
The New Orleans Saints select Marcus Davenport.
No!
Splash Brothers? Yeah.
It's playoff. Keep going, Brace.
The playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
For giving us the ability to fellowship and enjoy this sport of football and fantasy football. And as many of us do, we just enjoy this time of the year so much, Lord, and we just enjoy talking about it, which is how this pod got started. And just continue to let us live for you and shine a light for you, and just thank you and glorify you in everything we do. In your name we pray. Amen, Lord. And first thing, we're going to jump right on in. Clay and I were just talking about right before the pod some breaking news earlier today. Apparently, Jim Irsay has, maybe he had a mini stroke or something. I don't know, but he has given Jonathan Taylor permission to seek teams for a trade from the Indianapolis Colts. And like Clay and I were just talking about right before the pod started, Jim Irsay said he would die before he traded Jonathan Taylor. Now, I don't know about you, Clay, but what are you thinking about this?
It's such a weird situation because Irsay publicly came out and said running backs straight up don't deserve to get paid at that $15+ million insane level that, you know, the Henrys and Chubbs and all them are getting. And then he finally grants Taylor's wish, but at the same time he goes, we want a first-round pick back. So you're saying running backs aren't valuable enough to get paid, but they're valuable enough to trade a first-round pick.
Completely contradictory.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you that I think there's some teams out there willing to give up a first-round pick for Jonathan Taylor, and personally, I think he's worth it. Like, I mean, he's proven that by being the number one fantasy player or number one fantasy running back. He wasn't the number one player that year. He was number one running back, but still one of the best players. And, you know, this could completely bust my bust pick of Jonathan Taylor, because if he does get traded, which I did kind of throw that caveat in there, if he gets traded to a team where he could be a competitor, but there's really not many teams where he'll come in and have the workload that he has for the Colts. So he could still be a bust. Now his draft stock has fallen enough where he's probably a value or close to it right now, depending on where he goes. And I don't know about you, Clay, but from what I've read and heard, the number one team linked to Jonathan Taylor right now is the Miami Dolphins, which will be extremely interesting. You want to talk about a high-powered, like full of stars offense, man.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jonathan Taylor. Like, I mean, and Tua, Tua's not really the big star, but I mean, he almost had a breakout party last year. And not to mention a big hot rookie that is kind of banged up right now in a chain or a cane, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, a chain, yeah.
And anyway, I mean, and then honestly, their coach is really an offensive smart guy, which he's one of
love Mike McDaniel.
Dude, he's one of the rarities that was not actually an NFL player, or I don't even think he was a college football player, if I'm not mistaken.
He's just a nerd.
But he made it to the top, man, within the statistical realm. Honestly, he's really a kind of an inspiration as far as that goes, because not many coaches didn't play at least college ball.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure he probably, held the water jug for his high school team or something like that. But, I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was really inspirational and kind of really, I don't know, just to let people know that you can be an NFL coach without having to play college or pro ball.
Yeah. I love Mike McDaniel and just his whole vibe and everything, and he knows he's different, and he kind of thrives in it, and he doesn't shy away from it and try to be, I guess he doesn't try to be normal like the other coaches. mean, he makes jokes at press conferences, stuff like that. But yeah, the dude's a genius. I love him a lot. And yeah, I mean, if you get Tua, Jonathan Taylor, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, solid O line, still keep Mostert, Wilson
That's
back
right.
depth. I mean, they got all the talent in the world. Something I wonder though, I wonder if they could send A-Chain in the package for Taylor and kind of take down that first round draft spot.
That would be curious.
I think A-Chain was a third round pick, and if Indianapolis trades Taylor, you're looking at Kenyon Drake and Deion Jackson maybe from last year.
Yep, that's right. Zach Moss broke his arm, so he'll come back eventually, but it's going to be a while. Nobody
that, if you're a rebuilding team, which if you trade Taylor, you're rebuilding. You already have the young quarterback.
Yep.
Pair him with a young, talented top 5 running back of the draft and A-Chain.
Yeah,
and then
Jonathan
throw
Taylor's
on like
young.
throw on like a second or third round pick with that.
I mean, and honestly, if you're an A-Chain owner, that'd be great because you're running right into like a bell cow role for that kid, you know?
Absolutely.
I mean, other than the fact that he's banged up, but I mean, they're pretty much saying he's going to be okay. They're just kind of taking it easy with him.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know if Miami does that, but if they do, that'd be good news for Taylor too, because then you don't have to worry about the competition.
Yeah. And whatever team trades for Taylor, they're going to sign him. I feel like that's pretty much a given. I don't think anyone, especially if it's going to be a second and a player, a third and a player, a first-round draft pick. If you give up that, you're going to sign him. You're not paying that much for a rental running back, especially when you're a team like Miami that's practically set at the position. I mean, other teams that I guess you could watch for, Kansas City, the one team that would take a rental.
But I don't see them giving up a first-round pick for him.
But they're also so good. They're also so good that they're like, why not just give a first round pick for a top 5 running back and have a really good running back? Like
that's right.
But other teams, like you said, there's no like guaranteed opening to this Jonathan Taylor type of role.
Yeah, I mean, I could, somebody that has kind of a mixed backfield as far as injury concerns and another unhappy running back, maybe the Ravens.
Yeah.
But I really don't see them putting that much stock into a running back just because
you just pay Lamar.
Yeah, they got Gus Bus and who else they got behind them?
You got Gus, you got Justice Hill, I think is still there.
Yeah, Justice Hill, that's who it is. Gus Bus. Oh, Melvin Gordon, they just signed him.
Yeah, I mean,
and he actually has looked okay in preseason.
They always have like 3 or 4 running backs, and they're always good.
So I really don't see that happening. There's just not anybody. Like when you scroll through and look, there's really nobody looking for that head honcho running back like that. But they got a lot of stuff. I'll be honest, and I'm in on Roschon.
Yeah,
like they've talked about some stats that he had in college, dude. Like behind, and that was behind Bijan. That if he would have been at another school, we'd be talking about him possibly starting somewhere. Yeah. I mean, man, I don't know if I don't see Roschon taking over that team in the second half, and I'm buying in. Like I've got a dynasty draft. Heaven forbid somebody be listening that is drafting with me Saturday. But I've got a keeper. It's actually a keeper, not really dynasty. It's a keeper draft this weekend. And dude, I think I'm getting me some of Roschon kind of early at the end of the draft.
Yeah, might as well.
Because the way they talk. Well, let me pull up his 6 foot, 225. Second easiest running back schedule on the year. I mean, I don't know. They just
now, I wouldn't be opposed with how Herbert's getting drafted, taking both.
Yeah,
you
like
can get Herbert
right
in that
now,
8th round, 9th round, which as a running back 3 for what looks like he's gonna have that legit role for at least the first 5 to 6 weeks. I mean. But yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea taking Roschon as that handcuff.
So on Fantasy Pros, they're talking right now. Roschon has continued to see work with the ones in practice, as he's the best pass blocker on the team as a rookie, is what they're talking about right now. So I mean, he could be getting on the field third down.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
so if he starts out as third down back, and then say Herbert kind of peters out a little bit, there's no reason to think he wouldn't slide right on into that role.
Yeah,
So he's somebody, like, I've heard some of the analysts really just diehard Roshan fans, and I'm like, I mean, Herbert looked really good. He was the only one that played with the ones in the first game, and I'm like, I don't know. But the more I read about him, and the more I wish I could remember all the specific stats, but they were talking about him on ESPN Fantasy Focus, and Field Yates threw some really impressive stats out of him at Texas, and how he compared to other running backs in the nation. And he was like behind Bijan, and then he was like top 5 in a lot of those stats or whatever.
yeah.
And he was the number 2 guy on his team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I kind of feel like it's just one of those situations where he kind of got overshadowed by Bijan, who is a generational talent, and this guy he might not be a generational talent, but he's, extremely talented in himself. So
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, that's the news. Jonathan Taylor is got permission to seek a trade. So if you've already drafted him, good for you. If you haven't, you might want to get in on him now, because if he goes to a team that's worth it, it could be worth it. It's still a gamble, because if he doesn't get traded, maybe he holds out and doesn't play at all.
Yeah, I mean, looking through the teams that you have to be worried about if you're I'm not be worried about the teams that you won't if you're a Jonathan Taylor owner. Miami,
yeah,
you want Miami. I still wouldn't touch Baltimore, just because.
Yeah,
even if he goes there, they're still going to use JK.
It really starts and ends with Miami. Maybe Seattle, just because their injury problem so far.
Yeah,
Chicago, but they got Kenneth Walker that they like, and
Minnesota.
Yeah,
but they didn't want to pay Dalvin, so why would they want to pay him?
Yeah, and they didn't want to pay Kareem Hunt either.
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
And that's something else. All these teams that might need a running back, you still got Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette out there.
Yeah.
Now
Tampa
they're
Bay.
not near as young or talented as Taylor, but I mean, a lot of these teams we're talking about, it's not like they're going to the Super Bowl, except for Miami, maybe. Other than that, they're not. I don't know, man. I think I still say stay away from the whole situation instead of rolling the dice. Stick to getting some guys that have solid roles, and avoid that whole situation. Now, on a different note, another piece of news that Clay and I didn't talk about that I just thought about. Josh Jacobs says he will return to practice. I think at the end of this week or next week. Now, he hasn't returned yet, but he said he's going to. So who knows what that means or how that's going to go. But
I'll be honest. I think the Raiders are being a little bit slept on. I do. I think I don't think there's a big difference in Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr. Like, Derek Carr's better. Derek Carr's better, and Jimmy G also has an injury every year. Yeah. But I think Jimmy, Devonta Adams still incredible. Renfro, if he can stay healthy, he hasn't the past 2 years of concussion and stuff like that. Josh Jacobs, who was great last year, solid pass rush. You got Max Crosby, very underrated. I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders. I mean, that division's still tough. You would think it would be amazing if they finished second in that division, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're not last, which seems like they're just being put last immediately. Now, who does that mean finishes last? Who knows? But
what I have to see is I have to see Jimmy G do it with a bottom barrel offensive line, because every team he's been on has had a solid, if not studly, offensive line. The 49ers and the Patriots.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've always tried to give Derek Carr a little credit for, because his offensive line has been terrible over the last several years that he's been there.
I mean, I think it was a little bit better last year. I know Colton Miller came around finally at tackle. I think they still got who's the center?
Hang on.
Oh no, Rodney Hudson's gone. Never mind. Yeah. But you got Mutai from Fresno State. You got some guys. Colton Miller being your left tackle though, and he finally working out, that really helped. But I mean, if Jacobs ran for 1,700 yards last year, whatever he ran for, it had to have been something decent.
Well, I can go ahead and tell you right now, I'm not an offensive lineman, but pass blocking versus run blocking is completely different.
That is true. That is true.
And that's why some teams, they can run the ball so much more efficiently than pass, and vice versa. But I don't know. That's just me. I want to see Jimmy G do it with a not so great team.
Yeah.
Because the teams he's been a part of, I mean, were the teams that Tom Brady took the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the 49ers, who are locked and loaded with an excellent offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And honestly, every time we've seen Josh McDaniel, which is he gone?
No,
he's still there, right?
This
every
make or
time
break for him this year.
we've ever seen him on his own, it's been pretty terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm not completely convinced he's an offensive-minded genius either.
No.
Not completely anyway. Or either that, or maybe he's an offensive-minded genius, but just not a really good head coach.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'm just not sold on him. Somebody's got to not be good, and honestly, I don't see it.
Yeah,
but that's,
I think that if Jimmy G can be solid, between him, Devontae Adams, who's still top 5 receiver in the league, Josh Jacobs, who looks like he's a top 5 running back, Renfro, who hopefully can be healthy this year, Michael Mayer, the tight end from Notre Dame, Jacoby Myers, who was like the biggest wide receiver on the market. They paid him. Like they have the pieces. Can it come together, and can Jimmy G make it work? It's a big question.
Yeah.
But
that's right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if at the least the Raiders are a solid fantasy producing offense.
And I will say that there's been a lot of good buzz in their camp coming from the rookie quarterback O'Connell. I haven't watched him play or anything, but man, there's a lot of people saying that Jimmy G's going to have a short leash, even though he's been doing okay. But O'Connell has looked great, but we hear that a lot, but from some rookies. But anyway, we'll see. So that they might have a decent backup plan if Jimmy G doesn't pan out. So
yeah, for sure.
But let's go ahead and get on into the meat and potatoes of the show.
Yeah,
and this show, we're going to talk about bounce back players. Something we alluded to way on in the first show. That it's kind of new that I wanted to start. Players that were highly touted in fantasy last year that we think may have a big season this year. We try to take into consideration, player personnel changes, coaching staff changes, honestly, any type of change around them that's going to give them a chance to bounce back from really a rough fantasy season the year before, even injury. Sometimes, whether we like to admit it or not, injury does cause players to have terrible fantasy years because they're not playing. But that's one thing. Like, even if they're producing at a high level and they sit out a couple games, and we're probably not considering those guys, but just players primarily that we expected to have a good year last year. Maybe they didn't, and maybe it was a really terrible year, and we think they're going to bounce back and have what we thought they would have had last year this year, if that makes sense to y'all. But right before we get into that, we're going to talk about our sponsors a little bit. We want to thank them for supporting us in all that we do, and that's going to be Big Reed BBQ, automotive detailing solutions, This Little Piggy barbecue food truck, and Mimi's Children's Boutique. Thank you guys for supporting us. We really appreciate it, and just for getting behind us as early on as you have in the podcast. But first, on this pod, we're gonna highlight our main sponsor in this pod, and that's Big Reed BBQ. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Big Reed BBQ, Clay?
Yeah, so Big Reed BBQ started as a family recipe in 1986. Our mild flavor is right on time, and our spicy is just enough heat. Owner Ken Reed and Director of Marketing Andre Leonard say you can get our sauce at Doug Damona Farm and Feed, Time to Shine Detail, the Salty Brahma, Equipment Store, and Amazon. So yeah, shout out Big Reed as always. Yep. They've been here since, I think they might have been the first ad read we did, and they're just got some new bottles. They're plastic bottles now, and I think they have squeeze tops, so makes it even better because The glass bottles, you got a little scared whenever you pulled it out the fridge. Had to be more cautious and not drop it on your floor. But
yeah, I couldn't let my 4-year-old get that bottle out.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, it doesn't get any easier than Amazon.
Yeah.
Everybody's got Amazon Prime just about 2-day shipping to your house. Don't even have to worry about going to the store.
Or if you're in Quitman, go to the store of Quitman.
The store.
Yeah, the only one. But yeah, find it anywhere. Great product. You won't be disappointed. So,
but we appreciate them supporting us for sure.
Yeah.
And moving on, in this one, like we said, we're going to talk about bounce back candidates. So we're going to talk about quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, just like we do kind of the main fantasy impact players on your team, and the ones that we think will be bounced back compared to last year's production. Most of the ranking projections that we use are coming from ESPN or Fantasy Pros. Honestly, I used mainly Fantasy Pros because they're about the only website I could find anything about last year on. Same thing with Clay. We were just talking about that. You would think you'd be able to just Google 2022 fantasy production from whenever, and it would just pull up a bunch of info. No, I guess a lot of places really don't hold on to that. So that was a little challenging finding a lot of stuff from last year. But needless to say, we got it done. We got a lot of good content on this. And we're going to get it kicked off with Clay's quarterback bounce back for this year.
Yeah. So pretty easy pick for me. I actually, whenever I was looking into it, my first thought was, someone kind of out the top 10, just because I initially thought, if they were kind of down last year, they're not going to have that. They're not going to be ranked up high or anything. They're going to be outside that top 10 or so. And I was looking, and then I'm like, how about I go to number 4 right there? Go Lamar Jackson. So my guy Lamar, everyone knows, very passionate about him. Lamar ended up as QB 14 last year, which was kind of shocking. I thought he was outside the top 20. But yeah, QB 14 last year. Right now he's at QB 4, which is I think just behind Hurts, Allen, and Mahomes. I think he's one ahead of Burrow. But Lamar, biggest thing for him is it's something that I've been preaching since pretty much his MVP year, is that I feel that Baltimore almost did him like a disservice whenever they drafted him by quote unquote building the offense around him, which was essentially running I don't even know how to describe it, almost a triple option, like Army Navy type offense. Felt like at times. And while Lamar, his best year in college as a Heisman winner was him in the shotgun, using his legs, playing outside the pocket, making throws, and he never got the opportunity to do that in the NFL. You bring in Todd Monken, Georgia OC. As we know, defending back-to-back champions at Georgia, not shy to throw the ball in Georgia, that's for sure. But at the same time, they do have that run game. I think this is going to be a really big year for Lamar. I'd pretty much say it's a safe bet that he sets his career high of passing yards. I'm not really sure what the number is. Let me look at that real quick. It is 3,127. That was his MVP year. He had little over 3,000 yards, but he also had 36 touchdowns that year, and he also ran for 1,200. So I would say he throws for somewhere around like 3,500. Get Zay Flowers, who is already looking great. Last night he had a touchdown in the preseason game. You bring in Odell, who is, I think he's going to be more of this almost possession type receiver. As your number 2, number 3 kind of guy. Rashad Bateman, if he can stay healthy, is very talented, as we all know. And maybe him not having to be that number 1 kind of guy will help him stay healthy. Still have Mark Andrews, still have Isaiah Likely, 2 tight ends that are just great. And then you have probably 7 running backs in that organization. I mean, they're the Ravens. They're so winning with all that. I think this Ravens offense can be top 5 in the NFL, and I really think they're going to be really, really good. Lamar's shown I mean, I'm pretty sure the past couple years he's been
Yeah.
one of the best deep ball passers statistically, like based on percentages. And I don't know, it feels like he gets talked about as if he can't pass, but I feel like they just haven't given him the opportunity to. Yeah. And I'm very excited for this year. I really, really am.
I like that a lot. I definitely, I mean, with him being as high as he was and sitting out as much as he did last year, I mean, that just goes to tell you that his talent level. And if he plays the whole season, there's no doubt he's going to be like a top 6, top 7, easy. If he doesn't even, that's his floor. I do like, if they do throw the ball a lot more, if he gets around 3,500, I do think his rushing takes a little bit of a hit.
As it should.
Which
I think it needs
honestly, the last 2 years, he's only played 12 games, though. But, in those 12 games, each year he had around 700 yards. I think if he gets back to, like, the whole season and he does throw more, I think you can see 3,500 passing, like you were saying, if he takes that step forward passing.
Yeah.
And you probably see around 700 or 800 rushing and not 1,000.
I think
you're going to throw the ball more than run.
Yeah. I mean, he's what? He's 26. He'll be 27 in January. He just got this big contract that at the time was the biggest in NFL history, I'm sure. And it's probably been broken 5 times since then, since everyone wants to one-up each other. But I think personally, the Ravens were like, we're committing our future to this guy at quarterback. Let's not do this safety net type of offense anymore. Let's bring in an actual NFL offense and let's make him a quarterback. Like we know that he can throw the ball. Let's give him all the opportunity to do so.
And I really think, like you said, the OC coming out of Georgia, I mean, dude, they threw the ball just as much as anybody else. I mean, they ran the ball a lot too, but they were scoring like, they had so many possessions. I mean, they did a lot of both. And, I think
they kind of have this, like, they have the power run game, but they also still play vertical.
That's right.
I mean, you had the guys like George Pickens 2 or 3 years ago. George Pickens, very big deep threat. I mean, there's so many guys that were at Georgia. I can't even think of their names, but we all know there were probably 5-star receivers and stuff. When we think about the tight end, Brock Bowers, that's going to be Mark Andrews now. Like that offense is very NFL ready, and I think the Ravens have all the pieces to carry over that success that you saw Monken have at Georgia to the NFL.
Completely agree, man. I like him a lot as a bounce back, like you said, and if he slips in drafts, I think that's just a big mistake. He's not really slipping right now, crazy. But I mean, he's still going right around. Where was it? I had it pulled up.
I think it's about 40.
Let me look, just double check here. Yeah, he's going around pick 33.
Okay.
So still kind of early, but I mean, your 10-team draft, you're looking, late third, early fourth. I mean, it was an early fourth. So that's not too early, but I swore I've been seeing him go somewhere. I've been seeing him go as late as what was it? Yeah, see, I'm looking right now in these. I got the breakdown of different websites.
Yeah,
ESPN's got him a lot later, I feel like.
Yeah, ESPN's got him 39 right now, which is one spot ahead of
I was
Burrow
about to say,
40.
I want to say, I thought I was seeing him going around round 5 in a mock that I did, and that's why I was kind of caught off by 33.
Yeah.
But anyway, if he makes it to 5 or 6, I mean, you've already got your core team. Why not throw a possible number 1 quarterback? Because he's one of those that's got that ability.
And it's something where, we kind of expect his rushing yards to at least be under 1,000, but that whenever you take a quarterback that high, I want my quarterback to have some type of dual threat ability.
Oh, yeah.
One of my knocks on Burrow last week for the bust was that I don't like spending a top 5, 6, 7 round draft pick on a quarterback that it's limited, essentially. Yes, Burrow is going to throw for probably 4,000, 4,500 yards, something like that, and 40 touchdowns, which is great, but I don't know. If I'm taking that high of a risk, I want that quarterback to like essentially be the offense, which
That's right.
guys like Hurts, Allen, Lamar, they're that. Like
Yeah.
they do it all. And maybe Fields takes that leap and joins them guys next year. I mean, the only exception is Patrick Mahomes because he is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And he's just like a walk-in,
That's right.
1,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. So
Yeah. So, I mean, and my only argument against the Burrow thing was he ran for 250 last year and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, in that he seemed to have been stepping up running a little bit more as he's gotten more comfortable.
Yeah.
And he's hovering around, like he had 4,621 and then he had 4,475 last year.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that he could probably stay more around that 4,500 mark than 44.
Yeah.
34 touchdowns, 35 touchdowns. I would imagine you're probably going to stay around there. I don't see him getting a lot more touchdowns, but if he keeps rushing for about 5 touchdowns a year, I mean, he's going to stay right in that,
Yeah, those QB sneak numbers definitely help.
Yeah, and if he's going to pull that, who was that back in the day? Used to get all those sneak touchdowns. Brady used to get them.
Brady's like the king
and
of sneaks.
Breeze used to do a fair amount of sneaks too.
Yeah.
He'd do that little jump right over the top of the line, and
we saw what it did with Hurts last year with their like cheat play that Philly had.
I mean, if he's going to be one of those players, that's going to be kind of sneaky for his production. But either way, you're starting to split hairs between him and Jackson and all that, and you really can't go wrong with any of them as long as you get them at somewhat of a little bit of a value.
Absolutely. And I would say that I feel a lot more comfortable taking a quarterback in the 5th as I do at the 4th.
Yeah.
And that I do feel like Burrow probably takes that jump up to like the 35 range just because some Louisiana guy is going to be like, I want him right now in the 4th round. But if you sit back at the 5th round, say you went running back, receiver, running back, then I feel good taking a quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
And if a guy like Lamar is there, if a guy like Burrow, maybe you even feel comfortable reaching a little bit for a Herbert or a Fields. But I like to at least have 2 running backs and 2 receivers before I do take a quarterback.
Yep. I completely agree. Great pick, man.
All right.
And let's go ahead and jump into mine.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much the hill that I'm going to die on, I guess. Because I was so high on this guy coming to the season last year, and I was so wrong. And I will be the first to admit it. Man, it was almost embarrassing how bad it was last year. I'm still baffled and confused at how it went so bad so fast. Like, I mean, it didn't even get close to good, really, except for maybe 1 or 2 games. It was decent. But the head chef, Russell Wilson, boy, we let Russ cook last year, and he burned the whole meal. Like, just freaking straight black everything. Just burnt it to a crisp. It was terrible. And honestly, he burned everybody's fantasy lineup. Those of us that drafted him as he really wasn't a value. He was just, everybody liked him where he was going because we thought he would be better, not significantly worse. And I mean, honestly, I want to blame it on coaching. I want to blame it on injuries. I don't know what it was, but he ended the year at QB 16, which doesn't sound quite as terrible as it seemed like. But man, I mean, considering that I thought he was going to be top 8 at worst last year, and he really even had a chance to be like top 5 or 6 because he runs the ball a little bit, and thought he had a chance to be like top 5 or 6. And the head coach coming in was an offensive guy. Like, I thought he had a good chance to kind of come in and maybe let Russ operate a little bit more freely and the offense kind of open up for him be more productive than he was in Seattle, where sometimes it seemed like they kind of handcuffed him a little bit, trying to run the ball more whenever he was so efficient. But honestly, I don't know what happened, but let's not talk about last year anymore. Let's talk about this year and why this year I think he's going to be better. For one, I mean, Sean Payton. coming in, one of the probably one of the best offensive minded coaches of our generation, if not, the best offensive minded coach of our generation. It was like a lottery pick for any team, whoever was going to get him whenever he decided to come back. And let's be honest, Sean Payton picked Denver just as much as Denver picked Sean Payton.
Absolutely.
And to me, that is probably because he knows he can win and be successful with Denver. Because he's not coming back from making money and supposedly enjoying broadcasting to lose. He's not trying. I mean, he's trying to complete his legacy by winning another Super Bowl with another team and kind of securing his place as one of the all-time great coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And Russ is his quarterback. I mean, I'm not saying he's Breeze, but let's be honest. I mean, it's kind of a similar freaky situation where when Sean Payton came into New Orleans, coming off just, I mean, we've been the Aints for so long, we didn't even know what it was like to win, for Pete's sake,
Yeah.
And he comes in, and Denver's just coming off one bad season, and not to mention, you could argue that Denver's got far more talent than we had on their team, especially a better defense, I think, now, than we had whenever Peyton took over.
Yeah, for sure.
The offense could be maybe comparable, but Russell Wilson, everybody's been crapping on him a little bit, kind of like they did Breeze before he came to, New Orleans. They're a similar type player, smaller, athletic, underrated running ability, really accurate, really cerebral player. And that was something that really baffled me last year about Russell Wilson. A lot of the mistakes and a lot of the things he made just seemed like dumb things.
Yeah.
And he's always been touted as one of the smartest quarterbacks in the NFL. And I just, man, that's why I'm just having a hard time believing that was for real. Anyway, getting back to Sean Payton taking over, I really think that this offense takes a leap forward with him, if not two leaps, with his play calling, rejuvenating the offense and the players in that offense. And that's all going to start with Russ. I rode Russ last year. We rode right off a cliff. He let it ride, all right. He let it ride right off the freaking Grand Canyon over there.
Yeah.
But I think there's no reason he's ranked as quarterback 18 right now. Like his ADP is 129. Like he could be your backup for Pete's sake. All right.
Definitely.
And not to mention if you decided to go with an Anthony Richardson and then draft a Russell Wilson, like we were saying, somebody that's got, which a lot of people think he doesn't even have a high upside. I think he's got a great upside. They've got Cortland Sutton. That's something else. They're coming in healthy. Javonte Williams coming back. They signed P. Ryan, a great pass blocker and a good pass catcher out of the backfield.
Definitely.
Super underrated running back. Javonte Williams is coming back. He looked pretty good in practice, and I think they're expecting him to play in this next preseason game. So I think that's going to give them dual threat coming out of the backfield. He brought in Adam Troutman because apparently Greg Dulcich doesn't know how to block. So they got Adam Troutman in there, which is kind of a sneaky little pick at tight end. But I think they brought him in to block more, which is going to give Russell Wilson more protection. And I think he's got low quarterback one upside at least if they come out and Sean Payton blows it out the water like he did in New Orleans for all them years.
Yeah. And to me,
what do you think, Clay?
Yeah, the biggest thing about this is, can Sutton and Judy stay healthy?
Yeah.
Because everyone that has watched them play, both coming into the NFL from the draft, Judy was like that guy. Judy was supposed to be that next top receiver. Couldn't stay healthy and hasn't necessarily looked that amazing, but that duo, there's no reason why they can't be a top 5, top 8 type wide receiver duo in the league. They can definitely be one of those Chase and Higgins, Smith and Brown, Tua, Tyreek and Waddle. they have that talent to be that kind of duo.
Yeah.
They need the quarterback, they need the offensive mind, they need all that to come around with them, and obviously they need health to be on their side, which it just never has been since either of them.
It is right now. It is right now.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. They're
Yeah.
both healthy.
It feels like every
yeah.
year one of them pulls a hamstring week 3, something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And but yeah, hopefully it comes around. As you mentioned, another one, Marquise Callaway, Saints guy, went in there. Looks like he's probably going to be wide receiver 3 or 4 with Marvin Mims.
Well, and that's what I was about to say. They're talking Marvin Mims, the rookie, has been making big time plays, and he's somebody you might want to look at in big, like 14-team leagues toward the end, kind of a sleeper.
Yeah.
And especially if he ends up playing in the slot for them, because Sean Payton's kind of got a history of that slot player being very successful.
Definitely.
Kind of depends on where he ends up lining up, but he is a slot type receiver, very small, very shifty.
But he's got that speed that Judy and Sutton don't. Judy and Sutton are more of your possession, inside 15-yard type receivers. Mims might be that speedy slot guy. He also might line up outside and just burn you deep, which is something that Sean Payton offenses always have. So, and
also we've seen Sean Payton, if he has one of them electric players like that, we've seen him do whatever he needs to do to get them the ball.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, we every team he's been on, it seems like he has one of those players, and they're just one of them boom bust players. You know, I can't remember his name. That was for the Saints, but the last couple of years where he was there, the guy only had like 2 catches every game, but it seemed like one of them was for a 50-yard touchdown.
Deontay Harris. Or Deontay Hardy now. He changed his last name. He's in Buffalo.
Okay.
He was he was on the team to be a kick returner.
Yeah.
Yet Sean would put him out here and he'd score a 60-yard touchdown every now and then.
And it's like, what has he done since then?
Signed like a 3-year, $15 million contract with Buffalo for some reason.
Done nothing else.
No.
But Sean Payton got it out of him. And that's all the more reason. It's like he just knows how to get that, like those plays and that potential and that production out of players that go other places.
If he has a guy that he likes and he thinks needs the ball, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, Darren Sproles back in the day, if there's someone that he thinks that guy needs to get the ball and I'm going to make it happen, he'll make it happen.
So, that's why I think Russell Wilson makes a big bounce back this year. And I think the offense just takes a big step forward, and they got a solid defense behind them.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason to think that defense can't be a top 10 defense. And what always goes with at least a solid offense is a decent defense on the back to keep them on the field.
Yeah.
You know, because the more the defense can cause 3 and outs, that's more offensive possessions for the offense.
Yeah.
So I like Russell Wilson a lot this year.
And another thing that even helps out the fantasy offense, I know y'all talked about it last week a little bit with like Burrow. If you know the Bengals defense isn't that good, maybe Burrow's on the field a little bit more.
That's right.
In Denver, you're at least playing the Chiefs twice a year. Chiefs are going to score points. You're playing the Chargers twice a year. Chargers are going to score points. You're playing the Raiders, who we talked about earlier. I think they're going to be an underrated type of offense. They're probably going to score points. There's a good chance that the Broncos are in these 28-35 type games, which is just a fantasy dream.
So Russell Wilson, mine, dying on that hill, and we're just going to roll right off of that, roll into running backs. So
all right,
go ahead and tell me who you got for your bounce back running back, Clay.
Mine was a tough decision because I didn't feel like there was that many running backs that fit the mold. It really, I don't know. It seemed like I had a couple ideas, like maybe like a Najee Harris, but he burned me so bad last year. I didn't want to go back with him.
And I would have a good argument for him not bouncing back, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah. With Harris, I don't know. I didn't want to go for that.
Yeah.
Jaylen Warren, he is very good.
Yep.
But then after that, I looked at James Conner.
Yep.
someone that last year running back 19, running back 21 right now on the draft boards. I talked about him a little bit last week with my Kamara bust pick, where I like the opportunity of someone like Connor, someone like Miles Sanders, Mattinson, even a Kenneth Walker, that are all getting drafted in that same range as Kamara. I like those guys that, I mean, they're getting at least 90% of the carries, it looks like.
Yep.
And Connor, I believe, the year before last had 15 touchdowns. Like he had a crazy amount of touchdowns that first year in Arizona. He's probably not going to get back to that. The offense is probably going to be bad. I mean, Colt McCoy, Jeff Driscoll, somebody that should not be playing an NFL quarterback is going to be playing it for at least the first 2 months. Does that help him? Does that hurt him? Who knows? I still expect James Conner to get 20 carries probably, regardless, or 20 touches a game. And another thing, their defense, I think, is solid. And you got this defensive-minded head coach from Philly, Shane Steichen. Or no, it's the other one. I forget his name. Steichen's in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Hang on, I'll Google it while you talk.
Forget. Oh, no. But, yeah, you got this defensive-minded head coach, and it's a Philly guy, so maybe they're going to come in. Maybe they're going to be a little bit more conservative, especially with a bad quarterback. Try to run the ball, try to play defense, be a little physical, and James Conner's your guy. So,
Jonathan Gannon, Arizona head coach.
Gannon,
Jonathan Gannon. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Past 2 seasons, defensive coordinator for the Eagles.
Yeah.
But,
I knew both of the guys from Philly got hired out. But yeah, Connor, running back 21. So right now on ESPN, that's 52 overall. So 6th round pick. Maybe you reach up a little bit to 5th just based on need.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would be shocked if for at least the first 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, that he don't get 20 touches a game.
Yeah. I mean, I like him a lot better than it seems like others because the opportunity's there. And like you said, he had 15 touchdowns a couple years ago. He only had 7 last year, but he had 46 catches. And that's something that's been a really underrated part of his game for his whole career, is his ability to catch the ball. 58 targets last year. I think that's going to roll right on over to this year. He had 300 yards receiving, which wasn't as good as the year before, but he only had 1 touchdown receiving last year. And I mean, I think that's kind of low. And he only had 7 touchdowns.
Catches?
Yeah, 46 catches.
You're due some positive
at least maybe
there.
1 or 2 more, and then 7 rushing touchdowns. But he had 1 fumble last year, and that's something that a lot of people don't talk to him about, is his security. Over the last 3, hold on. Oh yeah, fumbles lost. I apologize. So fumbles lost. 1 fumble lost last year. Over the last 3 seasons, he's only had 1 fumble lost.
There you go.
That's pretty secure right there. And if you go back and look at the depth chart, I mean, who are you worried about? Keontae Ingram, Corey Clement, Tyson Williams. Get out of here, man. Like, James Conner's getting that rock.
I forgot about Tyson Williams.
Yeah, he's 4th on
he
there.
Had
Corey
that,
Clement's
he had like a couple weeks in Baltimore last year.
Yeah, he had a cup of coffee is what he had. And I traded him after that, too.
I did, too.
That was heck of a trade. Oh, anyway, long story. But, I honestly, these number 1 guys in Arizona, I'm taking the discount all day. Marquise Brown.
Yes.
Dude, give me some Marquise Brown late.
Absolutely.
And Colt McCoy has proven to be a serviceable backup. Not going to win the division. Not going to take your team anywhere.
Probably not going to win
the
games.
Dude he can uphold a number 1 running back and a number 1 wide receiver, no problem.
Yeah.
And maybe even a tight end. I don't know how much he's going to throw it to McBride or Ertz. Ertz just got cleared, but I don't think he's going to make it quite back from game 1. Yeah. They're saying questionable. I don't think so. Trey McBride's supposed to be the future there. But I think if Ertz comes back, I think they try to showcase him and maybe trade him to a team that ends up having a tight end get hurt or needing a more athletic pass-catching tight end because they're not really playing for much this year. But, I mean, you got Marquise Brown leading the pack, and then I'm still trying to figure out the reason why they're holding Greg Dortch back. Like, the dude did nothing but come in and freaking smoke everybody. Every time he was on, he got the ball thrown to him.
Yeah.
And then now he's like 4th on the depth chart. I mean, I don't know, but anyway.
And another one, Rondell Moore as well, who very talented wide receiver. Like that, they have some speed. They don't have no big body type of guys, but I think Arizona can be a sneaky offense to watch for fantasy. And something with Connor, it's so tough to gauge like how a team is going to be really bad. You saw it last year, like Houston. I mean, you even saw it with Arizona. But right. I mean, like last year with Houston and Damian Pierce, still fantasy relevant, gave you good weeks. Like
that's right.
Sometimes a team that might not even be close to 5 wins, they can still have these fantasy relevant players. So
that's right. Yeah, no, I like that pick a lot. He's definitely somebody. I'm trying to go 0 RB the best I can in a lot of my leagues. And he's somebody that's high up there. Like when I get to that round ready to take a running back, he's like, because what I've been kind of mocking and thinking about in my mind, I'm trying to get at least 3 elite wide receivers, get Darren Waller in the 4th, then grab a quarterback in the 5th. And then I'm, if I don't get a quarterback in the 5th, I'm grabbing one of the running backs that I really like in the 5th, or I grab a quarterback in the 5th, and then the 6th and 7th and 8th, pretty much I'm taking all running backs, just kind of depending on what lands where and how it's going. Honestly, the way a lot of drafts have been going, a lot of running backs, last that long.
Yeah, it's so crazy to look at. While we felt that the NFL was going so pass heavy for the past 5 years, I mean, 2 years ago, my strategy was leave the first 4 rounds with 3 running backs.
Yep,
and
I've been like that for so long.
Now I want to leave the first 4 with 3 receivers.
Yep,
it's so crazy. I guess just all the talent at wide receiver that there's so many that you're just like, I need this guy on my team. And I guess they're just more fun. And plus PPR being the norm now helps out a lot with that.
And definitely. And then that's gonna kind of lead me into my next guy, who's a guy that I've been targeting is like my RB2 in a lot of my drafts, and that's gonna be Cam Akers for the Rams. Guy that's been slipping way down, and rightfully so. He burned a lot of people like some of these other guys last year. Really a guy that he was in competition with Darrell Henderson to lead the backfield last year for a big, coming off the Super Bowl offense that was supposed to be really good again. And we thought he had a chance to kind of come out and win that competition. And then he comes out and doesn't even play. Like just straight up didn't even play. And honestly was pretty terrible. And I don't know if it had a lot to do with the coaching decision. I know at one point he requested a trade, and then I guess he rescinded that.
Everything about that Rams team last year just sucked.
Which I mean, it was crazy. But the way he finished the season, they gave him another chance. Week 16, the number 1 running back in the league. All right, 32 points that week, week 16. Week 17, 13 points, 13th running back, 12 points. Week 18, 12th running back in the league. So, I mean, he really kind of made a little bounce back there, and you could see his opportunity when they gave him 20 or so. Like, every time they gave him more than 15 carries, he broke 100 yards. Every time. Except, well, I'll tell you that once. And that was against Seattle. 17 carries, 60 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, there you go.
And he was number 4 running back that week. So every time he gets 15 or more, he's highly productive. And if he's going to go into the year as the number 1 guy, the offense definitely can't be any worse, I don't think, especially with another offensive-minded genius as Sean McVay. Matt Stafford's coming back. Kupp's going to be there. He's going to be healthy to open the field up some more, keep defenses honest. Their defense is going to be terrible, so they're going to have to score points to win. And if he can get some catches, that's going to even boost him even more. And last year he had, Let me pull up his catches here because I think he had more catches than people realize. Yeah, so he had, he only had 13 receptions. He didn't play as much, but he had 18 targets, but 13 catches. He had 117 yards on that. Averaged 9 yards a reception.
Yeah, that's great.
Crazy. And anyway, Sean McVay is looking at that and he's probably thinking, man, I got to get this guy the ball more. If he's averaging 9 yards every time he catches the ball, we need to see what we can do with it. So let me get back into my stats that I looked up. I got off on a tangent there. But anyway, playing time, if that was a problem, I think if they didn't want him to be the guy, I think they would have brought somebody in. They didn't bring anybody in.
I was going to say, who's their backup? Is it Kyron Williams?
Zach Evans.
I forgot about him. They did draft him
from Ole Miss. Rookie.
He went like the 6th round though. So
yes,
and he's had eternal problems in college. I think he was at 3 different colleges. He has a lot of trouble off the field. So
yeah, and that's exactly who Sean McVay likes. Let me tell you. So I was kind of shocked by that draft pick. Anyway, so Zach Evans is their backup, and then Kyron Williams, who's a small pass catching back that I thought was going to be a lot more productive last year.
He was very sneaky last year. People thought that he was going to come on and just be great.
Sean McVay, he just didn't pan out. And honestly, I think that was an experiment. He probably gets some work in the passing game a little bit this year.
Yeah.
But honestly, Akers finished as RB31, which he was projected. I think he was projected last year to be like top, I think it was in the top 20, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there.
I was thinking like around 4 or 5, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and anyway, I think with the way they messed with his playing time, his development was a casualty of that. So he didn't. It probably hurt his confidence too. And they say a lot of running backs, if that plays a lot into their ability and how they run is their confidence, and then you get benched like that right at the beginning of the year. That probably didn't help either. Coming in as the guy this year, I think that's going to help boost that a lot. They improved their offensive line. Not going to be a great offensive line, but improved it some. It's still better than it was last year. And honestly, he's ranked as RB23 right now in PPR, going around pick 58, but he's one of my favorite late RB2s, and I could see a situation where he finishes as a top, right inside the top 15 at running back. Yeah. And if that's your RB2, I think you're extremely happy with that. And that's a big bounce back. I mean, that's like doubling his production easily from last year. So I think if Sean McVay wasn't going to go with him, I think they would have more in, in reserve, or they would have somebody else. Now it would be poetic justice, because now looking at it, what if they traded for, Jonathan Taylor or something like that? But
Rams can't have draft picks. They've traded.
I was about to say, I don't think they have a number 1 draft pick for sure. But anyway, and they're not going to win.
What was Akers' touchdown numbers last year?
Oh, it was. Here it is. Right.
Couldn't have been high. Maybe 7.
7.
Okay.
Yep, 7 miles an hour. No, sorry.
If you get him, if you get him to 10. And I think that's your goal. Get him to 10 touchdowns, and
and that was on 188 carries.
It feels pretty safe about a top 20. Yeah, getting close to that top 15 range.
Yeah,
with 10 touchdowns.
An average 4.2 yards a carry with no Cooper Kupp on the field, no Matthew Stafford behind hardly. I mean, and 188 carries, 786 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I think that goes up easily.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know. That's just me. And he sat out 2 games. There was 2 games he didn't even play. Mm-hmm. So I think he takes a big step forward. And I think he's a lot more productive than people are giving him credit for this year.
And that's a team that, similar to James Conner, they don't have that backup type of guy. And at the same time, they there's just about 0% chance that they sign a Kareem Hunt or Leonard Fournette to come in and screw over everything.
Yep.
So yeah, it feels pretty good about both of those guys being a 90%, 80% type touch guy and pretty much always on the field for first and second down, which is what you want in the least from your running backs.
And I feel like just because people don't have high expectations for their team, like the Cardinals, they don't have high expectations for their running back. So I feel like he's getting slept on a little bit there.
Definitely.
But anyway, that's enough about running backs. Let's roll right on in our wide receivers. Who you got as a bounce back wide receiver there, Clay?
Yeah, so I got it down to 3 guys. One of them was Keenan Allen, who I think he ended up averaging about top 15 type of points last year, but he missed like 6 or 7 weeks in very Keenan Allen fashion. I love Keenan Allen, but I could talk about him all day. That's not my pick. My next one I looked at was Calvin Ridley, who, as we all know, was suspended last year, so he'd definitely be bouncing back from 0 points. But
that's right.
At the same time, the year before in Atlanta, he was very talented in Atlanta, very good receiver. So I went away from those 2. I went with DJ Moore, who I believe played every game last year, maybe.
I think he did. Some games you didn't know that he played if you had him on your team. I can speak to that because I drafted him. You didn't know he was there, but he did play.
Yeah, Baker and Sam Darnold did not do him many favors last year, or PJ Walker, or I don't even know who else they played. It felt like they had about 5 quarterbacks that got out there for them last year. But yeah, DJ Moore finished at wide receiver 20 last year, which feels low. You definitely thought he was like more of a 30 guy, but he finished 20. He left Carolina, got traded in the trade for the first overall pick to Chicago, to a up-and-coming team, to a clear number 1 wide receiver role, and now you put him at wide receiver 25 on the season. That just feels backwards to me. I don't know how he has like his worst year as a pro, and you lower him while also he's in a better situation.
Better quarterback.
Yeah, better quarterback who it seems like everything's pointing towards that offense and that quarterback taking a step passing. Last year was the first year since his rookie year that he did not hit 1,000 yards. The past 2019 through 2021, every year he was in the 1,100-yard range, and he also had 4 touchdowns every year. That, though, did go up to 7 touchdowns, which
is a miracle.
Yeah, that was his highest of his career. Only 63 catches, which was the lowest since his rookie year. I mean, DJ Moore, we all know, has the talent. Somehow finished with 888 yards last year while it felt like he sucked. So that's a testament to his talent and how good of a player he is. I think he's in that top 15, top 20, maybe even higher talks in terms of straight up wide receiver talent. And we've already seen that they're going to utilize him in many ways. First,
That's right.
I think the first pass of the preseason was a quick screen right to him, and he broke it for like 60 yards and a touchdown. Chicago, they're desperate for playmakers around Justin Fields. We all know that. Darnell Mooney's a solid player, but he's not that kind of guy.
Nope.
DJ Moore can be, and DJ Moore has been in the past. DJ Moore succeeded in a Christian McCaffrey offense, if that tells you anything.
That's exactly right.
DJ Moore, I think Chicago definitely takes a step overall this year. Maybe not a playoff team, but I think they're a lot better than 3 wins last yeyear. And DJ Moore, I expect 1,000 yards. 70, 80 receptions, and 5+ touchdowns. I think for him to be getting drafted at 25, which would be right now on ESPN number 58 overall, so a 6th round pick. I feel like that's way too low. I mean, he's 14 picks behind DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Watson. That's crazy.
And say you don't go 0 RB. You take 2 stud wide receivers, and then you start filling out the rest of your team. Then you take DJ Moore as your wide receiver 3. Okay. Somebody that's been a wide receiver 1 for many teams for many years.
He was a wide receiver 1 for fantasy with Christian McCaffrey being the best player in fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, in the same offense, and not with a good quarterback, because that wasn't even the Cam years, really.
Yeah. And they, it's crazy because Chicago's not giving up a number one pick for somebody they're not gonna use every game.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not like you don't give up a number one pick for that. And I think it was genius on their part because you give up a number one pick, which is a roll of the dice for a true like somebody you would draft in the first round.
Yeah,
because you know what he's capable of.
And you know that, or you saw the steps last year from Fields in terms of him being a franchise quarterback type of guy, and everything was just hinged on the fact of we have Chase Claypool as our number 2 who can't stay on the field. We have Darnell Mooney who just is not a wide receiver 1. Get that legit guy who can be that wide receiver 1 for you. And like I said, 58 overall, that puts you in a situation where maybe you do take that reach or take that gamble for a Lamar or for a Burrow.
Yep.
And then make DJ Moore your wide receiver 2.
Yep.
I mean,
I love it.
Like, why not?
Yeah. And something Clay and I talked about a little bit before the pod. There's so many times we have these conversations before the pod. We're like, man, we need to record that. But Justin Fields is such an underrated passer.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Justin Fields homer by any means, but if you watched his film and watched him play at Ohio State, the dude could thread the needle. Yeah. He could chunk the ball. And just because he doesn't in the NFL right now doesn't mean he's not going to. And something that I was telling Clay before the pod is that I really feel like they've kept floaties on him, for lack of a better terms, just to keep him from drowning and not letting him pass the ball as much as they could, just to keep him from not throwing interceptions and not failing as a passer.
Yeah.
But they haven't really let him go, period, to know if he will fail or not, or will drown, whatever you want to say. So when they do, if he succeeds like he has the talent and ability to, DJ Moore is going to blow up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be a top. To me, I think it's very easy to see him finish as a top 15 wide receiver with the talent, because if you look at talented quarterbacks as far as, passing ability and number 1 wide receivers. Now, the offense is not as geared toward passing, but that doesn't mean it can't adjust to Justin Fields' abilities, which is what it's been doing, is why they've been running the ball, because they've been trying to let him develop more as a passer. But, I mean, one of your first steps in development as a passer is a solid stud wide receiver to throw it to.
It honestly feels a lot similar to Lamar's situation, except Lamar is in year 5 or 6 now.
That's right.
Fields is in year 3. I mean, with Lamar, your wide receiver 1 or one of your top 2 wide receivers has been like a Willie Snead or somebody like that. While, I mean, last year Justin Fields wide receiver 2 was Equanimeous St. Brown. Like,
that's
just
right.
Not the guys that should be even wide receiver 3 or 4s in NFL offenses. And they were having to throw to them consistently. Like,
another little tidbit here. Strength of schedule. Justin Fields, second easiest strength of schedule.
There you go.
All right. Second easiest. So,
I mean, think about that NFC North. The Vikings defense has never been anything good.
That's right.
And I can't name you a corner on their team right now.
No.
So that's DJ Moore right there. The Packers, you do have Jari Alexander, so that'll be tough for DJ Moore. But then Detroit, who'd they sign? Cameron Sutton from the Steelers at corner.
And then they had that rookie last year that stepped up a little. No, they had Derek. No, it wasn't Slay. It was they had a rookie or somebody that stepped up a little bit last year, but still, DJ Moore is just one of those wide receivers that, I mean, even if he has an elite corner on him, I mean, he's kind of matchup proof if your quarterback's good enough,
Absolutely.
So I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, and as you said, I mean, he's in a team that was last place finish last year, so he's going to be on that last place schedule.
That's
so
right.
You're going to be playing the who's the last place teams, and probably the Falcons.
Oh yeah.
Who else? The Cardinals. They probably play the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And then who's the Commanders. So you'll
Yep.
play all of them. I'll take DJ Moore versus all those teams right now.
No doubt. So that's going to roll me right into my wide receiver pick. The touchdown machine, Deontay Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
And I say that with extreme sarcasm, as he did not have a single touchdown catch last year. Not a single touchdown catch. But what can I say?
I love this pick.
I know. The fact that a lot of other people would have lost money because they would, like, all right, if you were told that a wide receiver was guaranteed 147 targets and 86 receptions for 882 yards, but would not have a single touchdown.
On the Pittsburgh Steelers, too. Like,
not
on a good team.
One touchdown. 147 targets and 86 catches. Okay? Not one touchdown. DJ Moore had 7, and he only had 60 catches with, like, I think it was 100 targets or so, 100 something targets for 700. Was it 700 something yards last year? I don't know. I just
800, yeah.
800. But anyway, 7 touchdowns. Deontay did not have one. Okay. And other than lower yardage numbers, with yards per catch, all of his other stats were, right in line with his other stats, where he finished wide receiver 8 in PPR in 2021 and wide receiver 21 in 2020. Okay. So last year he finished at 28 with 0 touchdowns.
I mean, that's all you got to say right there. You're a top 30 receiver and you had 0 touchdowns. That's insanely impressive.
After having 7 and 8 in the 2 years before.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So 7 and 8 the 2 years before. So not like DJ Moore having 4 for 3 years in a row. He had 7 and 8 the 2 years before. All right. So now, you got Kenny Pickett coming in last year. That probably didn't help that much, but proverbially, oh Lord. Anyway, proverbially, he's going to take another step forward in his skill level and his experience.
Yeah, I think Kenny Pickett's going to have a good year.
He's already looked a lot better. Just really comfortable. Which he was, his first round pick. So
yeah, and he wasn't bad last year necessarily. It just
that's right.
They didn't, similar to like a Fields, they didn't just throw him out there and make him air it out. Right. They tried to Najee Harris the ball.
Yeah.
Get stuff like that. Kind of play that physical Pittsburgh way. But Deontay, one of his biggest problems is his drops. But whenever you get 145 targets for 3 straight years, that alone is something that you want to draft in fantasy.
That's right, especially in PPR.
Yeah,
but if Pickett takes a step forward in his skill level and his experience, and their team as a whole gets better, even if Gilbert Pickens, takes another step forward, that's going to take more pressure.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is in some situations, you don't want the wide receiver 2 or the other wide receiver to be to be relevant essentially. But I think in this team, the more the better, especially for Deontay, who's this smaller possession type wide receiver. That's just going to open the field up more and more for him. Pat Freiermuth, another guy, like the Pittsburgh offense can be solid.
And not only that, like we were just saying, Johnson's a totally different type of wide receiver than those 2 guys. Freiermuth, he's not really a possession guy. He's your red zone guy. He's an athletic tight end that'll make plays after the catch.
Yeah.
But not your possession guy. Neither is Pickens. Pickens is that big, deep threat like we were talking about from Georgia before. Goes down the field, makes big plays. Johnson, if you want to make a comparison, it's your Mike Williams, who's Gilbert Pickens, and Keenan Allen is Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay. And if he had at least 4, like you said, 140 last 3 seasons, and that's what he had other pass catchers there. Whenever he had those, it's not like there was nobody in Pittsburgh whenever he was doing that same thing.
Yeah.
So I just think he's one of those guys that gets separation. He gets open. He gets the ball thrown to him because quarterbacks recognize that quickly. His drops are a problem, but if he gets that fixed, I mean, you're talking 100 catches in a season, no problem. All right. And let's just say he doesn't fix it. Then you're talking 80 with 900 yards. And then you throw a couple touchdowns in there. Let's say 4 or 5, not even 7 or 8. Just say 4 or 5. I mean, you're looking top 20, close to 15, 18 wide receiver at the worst. And he's going at wide receiver 27 around pick 80 right now. It's a steal.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you go 0 RB, you're talking about your wide receiver 4. All right. And to me, he's got a floor of a wide receiver 3. And I'll take that volume all day, with a proven high volume wide receiver and emerging quarterback.
Yeah. And a couple other things. So far, this will be his 5th year. So far, he's played 17 games last year, 16, 15, 16. So stays on the field for the most part, which is a big thing for receivers, especially when you're 5'10", 180. So definitely on the smaller side, but he stays out there, which is huge. And also Allen Robinson, another guy that is on the team. And we know last year Allen Robinson screwed everybody in Los Angeles, but I have heard that he's looking better for Pittsburgh. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But
old man Rivers, well, they need to start calling him.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's another guy that you can just throw into the mix, and I mean, if he can be your wide receiver 3, just open up the field a little bit more for Deontay. So
yeah, I'll take Deontay as my wide receiver 3 any day. Throw him in the flex.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it worked. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at his per game stats, but you can't tell me there was a bunch of games where he didn't get 5 for 50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. 10 points out of your flex.
I had him on at least one team, and you never felt like he was going to hit the 100-yard bonus. You never felt like he was going to get a touchdown, obviously, based on how the year went. But for a guy to just almost consistently be an 8 to 12 point guy, that's all you can ask for. Like that's just someone that you feel safe about. And it honestly, it's a similar pick to like James Conner and to Cam Akers, where they kind of feel safe almost.
Yep.
And they might not be flashy, they might not score a ton of long touchdowns, but sometimes it's nice to have this guy on your team that you're getting good points from, and they're not boom or bust.
And they got a lot better defense, and they're going to give them a lot more of an opportunity on offense. And I think this offense is going to be a lot better than people are going to give it credit for. They've got a lot of good playmakers.
That whole division is going to be so freaking tough. Like, I don't know who's finishing last. I really don't.
Another thing. All right. So the thing with the drops with Deontay, Kenny Pickett's one of the most accurate passers, and he was coming out of college, but he's one of the most accurate passers coming out. And if there's any problem, if there's any way to fix a problem with catching, it's improved accuracy and hitting them where they need to be on a consistent basis. Definitely. And I think that's definitely something else that could play a factor in helping Deontay Johnson get back on track. I'm targeting him big time. I've never really targeted him in any drafts, but it's gotten so far down. I can't avoid it.
Yeah,
honestly.
I like him a lot.
So, but let's go ahead and roll on into our last, but certainly not least position, old tight end. And tell me who you got as your bounce back tight end this year, Clay.
Yeah, tight ends, probably the toughest position to pick this from. More so than the other list we've done so far with like sleepers and stuff like that. But I think there was 2 that definitely stood out. I think we're covering them both.
Yep.
Mine is going to be Kyle Pitts, who last year, second year in the NFL, everybody kind of expected this bigger breakout. You had Marcus Mariota coming in, ended up getting injured. And whenever he was out on the field, felt like he had 2 catches for 19 yards every game or something like that. It was ridiculous. Tight end 33 last year.
Yep.
So literally 32 teams in the NFL. He was tight end 33. So, which I think probably the Saints, Taysom and Juwan Johnson, both.
Yeah.
That was probably the two for a team. But yeah, for Kyle Pitts, who was the number 4 overall pick 3 years ago, and his rookie year, 1,000 yards and I think like 4 touchdowns or something.
Yeah.
For him to come in and be tight end 33 last year felt just insane. I know he was drafted very highly this year, tight end 6 on the boards right now on ESPN, and that has him going at 71, so right around the 8th round, which I love that for value.
I agree.
The Atlanta
honestly,
offense,
I did not know he was going that late. Fantasy Pros has got him at 68.
Really?
Now ECR's got him at 83, but Fantasy Pros ADP, like not the consensus rankings, they have him at 68.
So yeah, 7th, 8th round, I'll take him in either one of those. I like that value. But for Pitts, Ritter in his second year, I don't think anybody has high hopes for him, but I think he might be a little bit better than most people are giving him credit for.
Yeah.
He was a solid quarterback in Cincinnati. I think he can be okay as a game manager. He's not going to be anything crazy. Maybe if he has 3,000 yards, you feel pretty good. Bijan Robinson obviously comes in, gives that offense just another level that it can go to. Drake London, a lot of people are high on him, a lot of talent. They have the weapons, and as we just mentioned with Deontay Johnson, the more weapons around a pass catcher, sometimes the better it is. And with Kyle Pitts, hopefully that's the situation here. For a guy to be one of 2 tight ends in history to have 1,000 yards as a rookie, we know the talent. Whenever he got drafted, it felt like he was automatically walking in as like a top 5 tight end in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I think we see a bounce back to that kind of play this year. And he's way too talented to not be good again.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Like you said, the only thing that worries me that I've heard some analysts talk about of recently is some during the preseason and scrimmaging and practices with the first team will be on the field, and he does not play all the snaps. They will pull him off, and he will be on the sideline for some of the first team snaps. And, at first there's a couple of them they thought it might be just load management related. But the more that some of them have said they've seen it and the way it seems to be playing out is that it might be schematically related. Where
is Jonnu Smith the backup?
I believe he is. He is one of the backups. And I think it's kind of his pass blocking that's holding him back a little bit because, run blocking. Because Arthur Smith's a big run heavy coach, which, just because they're run heavy doesn't mean they won't be successful. Look at Jonnu Smith in Tennessee, for years was an excellent option at tight end with Derrick Henry as his running back.
That's what I was about to say is like Jonnu Smith has that connection already with
if he doesn't
Arthur Smith.
But if he doesn't stay on the field enough, then that's going to be hard for him to be as relevant. The talent is there. Like, they should be utilizing him. Anyway, it's so aggravating because he should be a top 5 tight end. We should be talking about him, taking over as the next tight end 1, but we're not just because they're squandering his talent in years.
Yeah. There's no reason why he can't be what Darren Waller was for 2019. Right. Like that kind of Darren Waller. There's no reason why Kyle Pitts can't be that every year.
That's right. And, so I hope that he does bounce back. I think he's got a good chance, but Arthur Smith just seems to not care a lick in the world about his talent and utilizing him. And until I see it, then I got to believe it. But like we were just saying, his value right now with that upside, you kind of got to roll the dice. And if you do draft him, draft some of these like more sleeper tight ends that we've picked to pair with him, and maybe one of them pans out.
Maybe take a shot on another one of the younger talented guys like a Kincaid or Laporta, and
that's right.
Have them both out there, and then if one of them busts to that top
Or I was
type of guy. Then
Yeah, well, I was talking about later than Kincaid. I was talking about like Jawan,
Yeah.
Johnson, Higbee, Laporta. You said Laporta, but he's going pretty late. And then another one that I've been hearing a lot about lately is Luke Musgrave for the Green Bay Packers, playing all the first team snaps with Jordan Love, and they're saying he has looked great. Super athletic tight end. Somebody else to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
I had those guys listed also to pair with my tight end, but I like that pick a lot because he has that tight end one upside in him if they utilize him like they should.
Yeah, and with Arthur Smith, while he does have that connection with Jonnu at times wasn't the only tight end being used back in Tennessee. Delaney Walker got some work. I know they were we're getting Derrick Henry the ball. We're going to run up in a two tight end set. We're going to go for it. So maybe Kyle Pitts doesn't play every snap, but I'd be shocked if he doesn't play 80. And hey, let him have some snaps off. But whenever he's out there, get him the ball.
Yeah. Let's be honest. And Jonnu's getting on up there. He's 28, and he's had his fair amount of injuries. So, I mean, and Kyle Pitts is generational talent and was drafted as such when they drafted him. So
feels like Jonnu should be older than 28. That's crazy.
I know. I was expecting to be like 30.
His birthday's today, actually. That's cool.
Whoa, happy birthday, Jonnu Smith, if you're listening. Good, so. But anyway, yeah, so that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I thought he was about 30 and I was surprised it said 28. But anyway, yeah, you don't draft Kyle Pitts as high as you do not to use him at all. You know. So I think he's a good person to take a shot at. And it also, this is one of those situations, if Desmond Ridder doesn't pan out, I think you're happy with Taylor Heineke coming in and throwing the ball a lot better.
Definitely.
And I think that bodes well for Kyle Pitts and Drake London in this offense.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I really think could be a bonus. If Ridder doesn't pan out, you have a great backup to step in and throw the ball around the yard. So, and then that's going to roll me right into the other guy that Clay was alluding to right before this, that has a long-standing injury history, but in a new place and the number one pass catcher on his team, and I expect to have a big bounce back from the last 2 years being down, and that's Darren the Baller Waller. All right. This guy has got to be the low-hanging fruit of the position, and honestly, I had to check with Clay to make sure he wasn't already writing about him because he's such an easy pick because he's so talented. He's been in that top tight end conversation in the past, but the last 2 years kind of eaten up with injury. But even when he did play the last couple of years, he produced, but not just crazy productive. And I don't know if it was like, last year he had Devontae Adams there, which didn't help too much, and then even the couple years before, the year before that, Amari Cooper, I believe, was there then with the Raiders. So that was kind of took some catches away from him as well. But so last year finished as tight end 31, mainly due to injury because he missed so many games of PPR. But man, in 21, he only finished as tight end 16. So, and he missed several games due to injury that year too, but not as many. So the last 2 years, he's been pretty down. But the year before that, let me double check where he finished at, but pretty sure he finished, I think he was like tight end 2.
Yeah.
Behind Kelsey or Andrews, or was that the year that Andrews was 1? Kelsey's been 1 for a while.
Probably forever, yeah. Yeah, Waller had a stretch where I loved Waller. I loved him and tried to get him in every league. It was I think 2019 and 2020 were the years for that. But I do think that it feels almost too good to be true. Like we're sitting here talking about him like every episode and how much we like him. It just feels like something's got to go wrong eventually, right? But I did see something else today that was talking about Brian Dable whenever he was in Buffalo, and it was an offense that didn't have that elite type pass catcher those first couple years with Josh Allen. Then they go and make the big move, bring in a Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs immediately booms into a elite fantasy wide receiver and just has not looked back. Maybe Darren Waller gets that same situation because there's no one around him that's going to be taking catches from him.
All right. So anyway, I can't find exactly where he ranked in 2019, but I know it was like top 5, top 3.
Oh, no doubt.
Because he had 107 catches with like 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. I mean, heck, that's elite for wide receiver.
Yeah.
So, but right now he's been ranked either tight end 4 or 5, depending on what site you look at. He's been kind of bumped up a little bit with all the hype. But the big question is, can he stay healthy? Obviously, we can't predict that. But he's got crazy upside, and he's healthy right now. He's the number 1 pass catching option on his team with an offensive-minded head coach. All right, but there's a little tidbit here. Brian Dable's not going to be the primary caller for this team. He's already turned those duties over to his offensive coordinator. So you're probably like, well, that's probably not too good because, the Bills were scoring like 40 points a game back in the day, blah, blah, blah. Well, who do you think his offensive coordinator is? Well, it was the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback coach and passing game coordinator for like the last 2 years, where it just so happens the number 1 tight end in fantasy resided over the last 2 years. I think it's Mike Kafka, one of the
Mike Kafka, yeah.
Mike Kafka is going to be calling the plays for the Giants now. So if there's anybody that knows how to use an athletic pass-catching tight end, it would be somebody coming from the Kansas City Chiefs that's been utilizing Travis Kelce over the last couple of years. And if that's not enough to convince you for Waller to make a bounce back in a big way, I mean, he's getting picked at like pick 63, which is a steal for somebody that has upside to be the tight end 1. So, I mean, and like I said with Kyle Pitts, also, if you don't have a lot of faith in his injury or or if you got questions or concerns about that, draft one of these late round guys at the end of your draft, such as Juwan Johnson, Tyler Higbee, Sam Laporta, Luke Musgrave, and roll with because they're going to have a fairly decent floor in their offense as well. And if Waller gets hurt, you can plug them in. And when Waller's healthy, you can take him out. Because his upside at your tight end position is like wide receiver floor. I mean, wide receiver 2 upside at least. If not better. And all I've heard is just about the beginning of every preseason game for the last 2 weeks, it's been 3 or 4 targets in the first possession for Darren Waller every time. And that's the first possession every time. I mean, you equate that out throughout a game, you're probably looking 15 targets a game, and they don't even know who their wide receivers are going to be. Dude, their list of wide receivers on the depth chart for Fantasy Pros, dude, that mug is longer than my freaking report card in junior high, okay?
Yeah.
Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard, Jamison Crowder, Bryce Ford Wheaton, David Sills V, Cole Beasley, and Colin Johnson. All right. Why 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wide receivers listed on the depth chart. Why would you have 11 wide receivers on your depth chart? You know why?
When you have 11 wide receivers, you have none.
You don't know who's going to catch the ball. That's why.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you the one guy that is going to catch the ball, that's going to be Darren Waller. Another thing that should give you a little bit of I guess faith in it. Daniel Bellinger last year was like, I thought was going to be a breakout tight end until a guy poked him in the eye and he had to have eye surgery and he was out for like 6 games. The dude was averaging 5 for 50 and a touchdown for like 3 weeks in a row. And Daniel Jones was throwing the ball. And let me just tell you, Darren Waller is not Daniel Bellinger. He is head and heels above him athletically as a pass catcher. So, I mean, I think Darren Waller comes in, wrecks shop with the Giants. He's going to have plays drawn up for him. I'm hoping, and I could really see a situation where it's like we're watching the game, and it's like, dude, the Chiefs run that play. I know y'all have all seen the meme with Leonardo DiCaprio sitting up pointing to the TV. That's gonna be half of us right there. Look, that's the Chiefs play for Kelsey right there, there. Only it's gonna be Waller. Okay, so that's why he's my bounce back guy. I think he busts into the top 4. And honestly, say this is the year that Kelsey declines. I think it's Waller that unseats him as number 1. But that's just me. I don't know if that's going to happen. I thought
Kelsey's not going to decline until he retires.
I thought he was going to be him. I thought it was going to be last year, and it didn't happen. So you know what? I'm not betting against him anymore. He's found the fountain of youth, and honestly, why would he? Why? I don't know. I guess, like you said, he's not going to decline until he retires. Why would you retire when you're still producing like that at his age?
Yeah, and it's the same with his brother. His brother's like still the best center in the NFL, and he's like 39.
Yeah, dude, get me some of them genes, the Kelsey genes, man, free.
Definitely.
But anyway, so I like Darren Waller to bounce back this year. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about him, Clay, but
no, I like that pick a lot. We've talked about him plenty in the other pods as well.
Yeah, I know, and that was another reason I tried to find somebody else, but
there wasn't.
Not really, not any bounce backs that you just have a good feeling about. Now there's some sleepers, and stuff that we talked about, but as far as bounce backs with going from as lower production to high production, like, that's what we're looking for.
Well, and if you looked at the rest of the top 10 tight ends for this year, everyone else performed well last year, essentially.
Yeah.
Besides Waller and Pitts.
Yeah.
Kelsey, Andrews, both great. Hawkinson, best year of his career. Kittle was good. Goddard was great. Ingram, Freiermuth was solid. Ingram was Njoku, Komet, Higbee, all those guys. None of them had a bad enough year to bounce back.
That's right. So,
Dalton Schultz,
anyway,
there's so many.
Yeah, and honestly, Dalton Schultz, heck, we might be talking about him. He was one that you can't say a bounce back because he's projected so low this year.
Yeah.
He
probably finished 7 or 6 last year.
And he was hurt for several games. Mm-hmm. He just caught a boo-koodle. I had him on several teams, and he caught. I'm telling you, every game he had 1 or 2 touchdowns. It seemed like. Yeah. But
does it feel like the tight end position is almost deeper than usual?
Man, it's scary to think that because I feel like it's always a wasteland. But I feel like that it could be more productive, especially if the quarterbacks bounce back this year, like we all think they will. They got to be successful somewhere.
Maybe it has to do with that great rookie class of tight ends coming in this year, where you see guys like Kincaid that you have high hopes for. Laporta, Musgrave, you mentioned Michael Mayer out in Oakland, Jawan Johnson. Foster Moreau might even be relevant, or Smith in Cincinnati. There's so many guys that it feels safer than ever to wait on tight ends towards the end.
That's right.
It's so crazy.
Well, we're not going to hold y'all up anymore because we made we're trying to make a commitment to keep it shorter. So we're going to go ahead and sign off. But we appreciate everything, guys. Thank you for listening. Please, we want to remind you, subscribe, download, give us some feedback. Check us out on any of your we should be on every major podcast app. Try to leave us some feedback if you can. We like hearing what you want to hear more of, what you don't want to hear more of. We're trying to get it shorter to make it a little bit easier to get in the day. But we just appreciate everybody out there listening. Give us a good rating if you can, and keep chasing that trophy, guys, and we'll see y'all later.